vinyl community. This is Tommy in North Carolina, and today's video is going to be something that I kind of alluded to a little while back, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing it right now. I'm going to talk about Bob Dylan's catalog, and I'm going to do it in reverse order, sort of. And so I've got some groupings of albums in mind. Obviously, it's very hard with Dylan to break everything down into sort of, one big thing. I mean, you can do it, but I don't want to make, a 2-hour video. So what I'm going to do is, over the course of time, is work this out in increments and just talk about Bob Dylan and his recorded albums in sort of groupings or pairings, or however I kind of see his career. I mean, everybody knows Dylan. He's widely regarded as probably one of the greatest American songwriters ever. Recently awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, which I know there was a lot of people that contested that. But, there is, I mean, he's been an enigmatic sort of figure to popular and folk music. And his career has almost kind of been the same way. It's been just sort of this, just sort of all over the place. He started out as a New York, Greenwich Village, folky, kind of, in groups of Dave Van Ronk and, of course, John Baez and that whole movement. He went electric at Newport, and people went wild. And, he's always kind of plugged into different things. There's a gospel period. So that's what I'm going to kind of do is use these videos to break them up. Now, the thing I'm going to talk about in this particular video is his most recent incarnation, which is crooner. Now, there's been a trend in popular music for the last 10, 15 years for artists to look at what they call the Great American Songbook, the Tin Pan Alley songs, the songs of Cole Porter, and these sort of schmaltzy sort of songs that go back to the Depression and the old songs, and they're fantastic songs. Rod Stewart has done like 100 volumes of these things. That's pretty much been his bag for the last several years. Paul McCartney's done one, Kisses from the Bottom. He teamed up with Diana Krall to do that. So it's kind of been popular for a lot of older artists to go in and sort of explore these songs. And so it's interesting that Dylan kind of went this way. Now, I think it kind of started a few years ago when he did a Christmas album. And it was pretty straightforward, and a lot of people didn't know how to take it. But it was him doing traditional Christmas music, and it was very much in the style of Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra and that kind of artist. And so a couple of years ago, he did an album called Shadows in the Night. And this album was from 2015. And this was his first standards album, an album featuring songs that weren't necessarily written by him. The interesting thing about this particular album is that it was all songs that Sinatra had done. Now, they're not all Sinatra songs per se, because Sinatra really wasn't a writer. But, there's a lot of very familiar names on this album. Rodgers and Hammerstein, Irving Berlin, several names that and a lot of songs that like I said, songs that Sinatra had done or made popular. Now, the album was produced by Bob Dylan under his pseudonym Jack Frost, and it was a little bit of a shock because, I mean, if you've heard Dylan in recent years, you know that Dylan is not a traditional vocalist. Now, I've never bought into the notion that Bob Dylan can't sing. I think that's an easy sort of excuse for people that just aren't familiar, because when people say Bob Dylan can't sing, I immediately want to say, well, what do you mean? I mean, there's the Penny Bob Dylan and everybody knows. But really, he only sang like that for a couple of years in the late 60s or mid-60s. Beyond that, I mean, you've got the crooning Bob Dylan that sang, on Nashville Skyline in that era. His voice has changed throughout the years. Now, Dylan, the last 20 years or so, there's a lot of, you can tell the cigarettes, and his voice has been pretty ravaged. So he's got a very gravelly sort of voice. Now, it's not a Tom Waits sort of growl, but it's got a little grit in the throat. And so the idea of him singing standards is a little bit, okay, you scratch your head and you wonder, because I mean, Dylan doesn't have a smooth traditional voice. Now, that's where I think the Dylan voice kind of confuses people, because Dylan's not a traditional singer in the sense that he has that sort of lead vocalist type voice. Now, I'll give you that. Don't say Dylan can't sing, because to me, when you imply that someone can't sing, that means they're not hitting the notes, or they don't have the ability to sing in key. I think Dylan very much has the ability to do that. And I think he's very in control of what his voice is doing and how it comes across. Now, having said all that, and again, the idea of Bob Dylan doing standards, which can be a little bit of a shock, Dylan does take these songs in a completely different way. Now, he sort of did an interview around the time that he didn't feel like he was doing cover songs. He felt like he was doing his own material. I don't know really how I feel about that. But the album opens with the Sinatra classic, I'm a Fool to Want You. And it's got some interesting songs for him to do. The Night We Called It a Day, Stay With Me, Autumn Leaves, Some Enchanted Evening. The album closes with That Lucky Old Sun, which a lot of people have done. But what Bob did is he went in the studio with his touring band, Tony Garnier on bass, who Tony's played with Bob for a very, very long time, probably longer than anyone else has. Donnie Herron plays pedal steel. Charlie Sexton, the great Charlie Sexton, plays guitar. Stu Kimball, who's been with Dylan now for quite a number of years. And, of course, George Rosselli, on drums. Or percussion, really. But what Dylan does here, he doesn't go the typical, I'm going to arrange these songs and add horns and strings. He goes in with his touring band and sings a straight over version of these songs. And I think that if you're just if you've listened to Tempest, which I'll talk about in another video, but Dylan's voice is pretty ravaged on that album. I think you'll be shocked. Now, I don't know, I'm assuming he recorded the album in 2015, right before it was released. But like I said, it's not these sort of big arrangements. Now, there are some horn players on the album. It's not completely free from all of that. So I'm not going to, don't just expect that sort of sparse arrangement, but the arrangements are far more sparse than what you would expect from a standards album. And so this one's no exception. And so this kind of kicked off the Bob Dylan singing standards sort of thing. Now, he followed it up the very next year, as if one wasn't enough. He went in and did another one, Fallen Angels. This was also a covers album. Now, I got this one. It's a Barnes & Noble blue vinyl exclusive. And it came with a download and everything. But yes, Fallen Angels is more, it's 12 more of these sort of standards and sort of, these different versions of the songs. Now, it's very much a sequel to the first album, and so it's in that same sort of vein. Now, he does get away from the Sinatra stuff, and he does some other people stuff. Young at Heart, which a lot of people know. They also know Melancholy Mood, That Old Black Magic. Those songs are just kind of standards. Polka Dots and Moonbeams. Like I said, songs that people know, but Dylan somehow, in doing these songs, he makes them his very own. And that is probably the best way to approach something like this. Dylan doesn't reinvent the wheel in so many ways, but then again, by presenting the songs the way that he is, this isn't your sort of snoozer type release. It doesn't lend itself to be this sort of thing that you can just dismiss outright. And I'll give you an example, like the McCartney album, Kisses on the Bottom. Really nice album, wonderful arrangements. No one is ever going to accuse Diana Krall of not having the ability to give those songs the space they need and the right musicians and everything that's going on. But I've only listened to that album once or twice. I don't find it compelling. It's not anything I go back to. These Dylan albums, I do. I go back to them, and I always find something in there that's interesting. Again, I go back to his voice. It's almost shocking the way he sounds. And finally, and I talked about this one in the last video, is Triplicate, which is the most recent of these. Now, Dylan's one of those kinds of artists that when you think that he's gone off a limb or done something completely out of the normal, then he'll just double down on it. In this case, he tripled down on it. So he did 2 albums of standards, and I guess people were like, well, what's Dylan doing? So he follows it up with a triple album set. Now, Dylan swears these are 3 separate albums as one, but they are titled differently. There's LP 1, Till the Sun Goes Down, and I think the idea was thematically they were supposed to be different. I don't know, or I'm not smart enough to pick up on the thematic differences. They all sound pretty similar to me. Now, there are a little bit more arrangement on here. The strings and the horns are a little more predominant on this set than they were on the first 2, where in the first 2 they were more background. Of course, there's still background here. It's the same approach. It's not like he went in and said, I'm going to completely turn this whole thing around and do something just totally out of the normal. It's just very much in line. If you like those other 2, those first 2, this one's another keeper. But the first one is the Till the Sun Goes Down. I could have told you Once Upon a Time, his version of Stormy Weather, which is really, really interesting. Trade Winds, That Old Feeling, that's all on the first disc. The second disc is Devil Dolls. It opens with Braggin', so it's a little more upbeat. Maybe that's the difference. How Deep is the Ocean? Here's That Rainy Day. There's a Flaw in My Flu, which is a mouthful, but Dylan sings it on this one. And then the third LP is Coming Home Late. Day In, Day Out is on there. Sentimental Journey. These Foolish Things, his version of Stardust. And it closes with Why I Was Born. So Dylan's take on standards. Now, again, it's one of those things that people are very mixed about. Would I prefer Dylan to write and record original material? Most certainly, but I don't fault him for doing this. And the thing is, he has added an interesting element to his catalog that, again, like Dylan, I find it interesting at this point in the later stages of his career that he's coming out and he's doing albums of this nature. And so that makes for a very interesting aspect, and it kind of makes you second guess. A lot of times when Dylan does stuff like this, I find that he sort of hits the reset button and he's going back in and he does this whole new thing that comes out. And we'll talk about that in one of the future videos where I talk a little more about the sort of last round of albums that he made. I don't know if I want to necessarily go in backwards order when I do these. I may just pick different periods. I don't know. Comment below and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about these standards albums. Yay or nay? Indifferent? Let me know. I'm curious. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I love to hear from you guys. Check out my other channel, Daily Records. I do a different album every day and just do kind of a mini review or spotlight on it. And I appreciate everyone that's been tuning into that. There is a link up above in my sort of description box up there for Daily Records. So I highly encourage you to check that out. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. I usually show what I'm spinning on there. And you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that's commented and all the people that have interacted with me. It really means a lot. I've really enjoyed doing these vinyl community videos, and I hope to do quite a few more. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.